Hey everybody, welcome to the Good Morning from the Chicken Coop podcast. My name is Kim Johnson and I am a master mindset coach, creative strategist, and also happen to be a farmer. This is my chicken coop and I come out here every day to record a podcast, to teach distinctions, possibilities, new ways of thinking, and just bring some joy into the world. So welcome to the coop and let's start your day off in a fantastic way. Hey everybody, good morning from the chicken coop. So let me ask you about alignment. This is an interesting conversation that I had with somebody, and we were talking about how we like to believe we're aligned with all of the things we say, but we are so often not very well aligned with the things that we say, and we have to kind of reckon with that. So this came up because this person wants to be healthy. This person's like, oh yes, I have every intention of taking care of myself now. I have every intention of doing this. And I said, well, have you cleaned out the house of all the food that you should not be eating? And he laughed and he said, well, it's a work in progress. And I was like, so is the alignment a work in progress? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, quite honestly, you have to draw a line in the sand and you have to say, okay, if I'm saying this, then I actually have to do it. So did you guys go through the house and purge everything in the house that needed to be purged? And he's like, probably not, because you know how it goes. And I said, no, you have to tell me. Like, I really need to understand this, because it's a very simple process to say, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And it's a more complex process to actually follow through with it. So, did you follow through? And he said, well, I followed through in the sense that I made the commitment and I'm working through making better choices. And I said, okay, but again, that's not fully aligned. That is that you have an intention, and an intention is great, but you have to follow all the way through with the alignment piece. And back and forth this goes, back and forth it goes. And he starts to understand what I'm saying when I said, if the stuff is in the house, it's much harder to make the decision. So it's kind of like you don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry. I'm sure you've heard everyone say that. My mother was terrified of going to the grocery store when she was hungry. And she would say things to me like that. She'd say, oh, never ever go to the grocery store when you're hungry. You'll come home with a bunch of stuff, and all the things that you'll come home with are things that you won't necessarily want to have in the house. And she was right. And I know that. Like, I absolutely know that, because I've done it myself. I've gone hungry, and before you know it, you're coming home with all kinds of wild things. So I use this talking to him, explain this to him, and say, if it's still there, pretend that, like, okay, you didn't go to the grocery store and buy it, but what you did do was you set yourself up for a big chunk of failure, because in essence, you have it in the house and it's available as a choice. Now, at that moment in time, we can use two things. Like, I have things in my house. I have very hard rules about my house. Everything's organic, that I can buy organic. If I can find it that way, I'm buying it that way. If I can't, I'm going to find it the cleanest way that I possibly can. But there are still things I have here that I don't want to eat for myself. Like, I'm working very hard to eliminate more sugar in my diet, like added sugars, not like natural sugars. I really don't worry about nature's sugar. Like, if my rule is kind of, if God put it in there, I'm okay with it. But if it's not, then I'm not okay with it. So here we are looking through things. I can look through it. I've got stuff in my cabinet that my son would eat, but I'm not going to eat it because I know. And he's like, well, how do you handle that? And I said, well, I've made a declaration to myself that I'm not going to do it, and I don't lie to myself. But that's a very hard line to hold, my friends, a very hard line to hold. And over the years, it's taken me a long time to condition myself to say, do you lie to yourself? No. Okay, if I don't lie to myself, then I'm not touching it. And I genuinely mean it now. I won't touch it because I said I won't touch it. So if they decide they want to go to Mexican food, if my family wants to go out to eat to Mexican food, and I say, I'm not having anything fried right now because my body is struggling, healing from the cold and everything, when I get there and they put the chips in front of me, which they will, and we know they will, I'm not touching the chips. Like, I am hands down not touching the chips. I will say, I'm not touching them. And when I made that declaration, I mean it. I won't touch them. But that is not easy to do. In fact, it is incredibly hard to do. So I have developed that over time, the ability to do that, to be able to say that I'm not touching it and mean it. But not everybody can do that. So as we're talking about this, and he's saying it, I'm explaining you can do it that way, or you can make a decision that says, I'm going to go purge my house from everything that's tempting, or put it on a shelf and label it. Like, I've had other people do it that way, where you just say, this is not the shelf I eat from, or this is the shelf I eat from. And if it's not on the shelf, I don't eat it. It helps you align. And that's what this conversation is about this morning, being aligned. So where are you aligned? Where are you out of line? Where do you put yourself at jeopardy? Where are the things that you know are buttons that can easily get pushed? And you look at it and you say, I know this is what's tripping me up. So for me, I know there are certain things that trip me up. Like, if I have it, there are weaknesses. Like, chocolate is a huge weakness for me. And I'm using this subject because this is the one that I started off with talking about with somebody. But this could be with anything. This could come up with any type of situation. But what you have to remember is there is a very, very big chunk of this that relies on us being aware and remaining consistent with what we say. Do we want to be aligned? And if the answer is yes, then we focus on that. We focus on that big time, because we don't want to fall out of it. So look at your situation. Look at what you've got going on. See where you show up with alignment, and see where you show up out of alignment, because I promise you it will help so much. Okay, my friends, I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.